Presented by Church Tech U, it's the ProPresenter show. On today's show, how to make video show up on your stage screen. Hi, and welcome again to the ProPresenter show. This is, of course, the show where I teach you about ProPresenter. My name is Paul Allen Clifford. Before we get started, if you've ever wondered why it's totally different to do it in ProPresenter 7 than ProPresenter 6, go ahead, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. In ProPresenter 6, showing videos on the stage screen, or stage display as it was called back then, was actually fairly easy. There was just a different layout. You checked a checkbox and you're done. The problem is, though, that in ProPresenter 7, you can have a lot more screens. So which video on which screen are you showing? Well, that's why the additional complexity. So let's head over to my computer and I'll show you exactly how to go about doing it. So the first thing you need to know is we're not showing a specific video necessarily on the stage screen. It is possible to do that, but really most of the time what you want is you want another screen, what's showing on the other screen, to show on the stage screen. So let me show you how to do that. Let's go into screens and then edit layouts. Notice this is under stage, so edit layouts. This is assuming you've got a stage screen. And notice I've got a mess of layouts here. That's because I teach people how to use this stuff. You won't have that many. You probably won't have that many. So what you want to do is, first off, you want to create a new layout. So let's do that. I could select one of these down here, but instead I'm just going to go for a blank layout because that gives me the most flexibility. I'm going to click on that and give it a name that makes sense to me. So main out main out mirrored screen. You can call it whatever you want, even Fred, if that makes sense to you, but just do that. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to click here and go down to screen preview. Notice I selected main out. If I wanted, let's say, the alpha output that I have on my computer, I could do that. If I wanted the portrait monitor, you know, this guy, I could do that. Anything, just choose whatever I want it to be. So in this case, main out. So you'll notice that puts it right there. Not very big. Maybe there are situations where you want just like a picture-in-picture of the main out. That's why it's that size. But instead, I'm going to do it full size. Now, I happen to know that this particular stage screen is 1080p. So we're going to change the size to 1920 by 1080. Okay. Now, when I do that, hit the enter button, you'll notice that it's way off here. I could drag it, and notice as I'm dragging it, these numbers change. But I happen to know that they are measured from the upper left-hand corner, and that is pixel 0, 0. So we want to, first off, click in that box, and I'm going to type 0. And what happens when I hit return? It pops it all the way to the left. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Type 0, hit return, pops it up all the way up to the top. So that's how I center that on my screen. So now when I go back to show down here, and I could change my stage screen by clicking on this and then go down to this one and change this one to, I think it's that one. Yep, main out mirrored screen. I'm on a different page of my Yeah, there we go. It's on a different page of my Stream Deck, so I couldn't get to it very easily. But you see how I did that. I just clicked here. Now, you've got to be in ProPresenter 7.5, I think, is when they added that. These are called stage controls. So if you see the same symbol up here, you're on an older version. Just click up there, and then you'll have access to the same information down here. So when I do that, let's say that I have this on my main screen. I've still got my key in from earlier. So this is on my main screen. And if we look here, that's what we're seeing. And now if I go down to this, that's what we're seeing. So it's showing me exactly the same thing that's on the main screen. So if I wanted to put a background video under that, that shows on my stage display, notice it is moving just as it shows on my main out. They're showing exactly the same thing. If instead I wanted to show a foreground video on my main screen, notice we've got this nature footage. This is moving, it's subtle, but it is moving. Then if I go back to stage, then you see that. In fact, let me show it to you full screen. So see, notice how it's moving. That's a background from our friends over at Church Motion Graphics. So that shows up that way in both places. If you want to change it back to just a regular kind of a current slide, next slide kind of thing, you can do that. And now that we've got macros in ProPresenter 7.6, I could have a macro that did it, or I could have an action. But if you want to learn more about macros and actions, then take a look at those videos. I'll try and remember to link them below the video. So that's how to show video on your stage screen in ProPresenter 7. If you like this content, I happen to know that you'd like my ProPresenter 7 Quick Start course. So head on over to TDM.fyi/Pro7Quick. And once you put in your name and address, I'll make a login for you so that you can just get everything that you possibly can out of that little course that I've made just to get you up and running fast in ProPresenter 7. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.